Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Rosie here, and I'm gonna do my other intro, but I'm not playing that game right now. Well, Jesus Christ, lads, how we doing? I know this is something that I don't even want to know how many months ago I said this was coming. I don't even want to know. I do not even want to know how long this has been on my plate without me doing it. But, that being said, we're here, movies watched, we're doing it. I don't want to rush these out. I know, like, I want to pump out reviews and finish all of this crap, because I know some of y'all on the channel actually genuinely like this shit, and I do like to make these, too. I do like to make them. But that being said, I also don't want to give you all half-assed content. Like, if I'm not feeling something, I don't want to do it just to do it, and then it be half-assed. I want to wait until, like, I'm genuinely in the mood to actually do it, so that way I give you the best version of what I'm making possible. Does that make any sense? So, I just let it play out. It's horror movie season. We got a lot of shit coming, so I'm kind of been in the mood to do this again. So, I'm probably going to be a little bit rusty. I have notes here, not as much notes as some of the other movies, because again, like, it's an 80s slasher movie. There are more complex fucking movies out there than this one. So, there's not the most notes. You know what I mean? There's more complex movies out there than an 80s slasher movie. But that being said, this movie is interesting. Today we're gonna be taking a look at Halloween 2, 1981, and this movie. It's an interesting watch, knowing that this movie has a unique legacy in this franchise because of the twist in this. The twist is it for lack of a better word, twist for what they decide to do with the characters in this of Michael and Laurie. The legacy of this movie is debatably unrivaled outside of maybe the original. Because this, the original is obviously has its place in history, and it's definitely the best one. But in terms of, like, a movie that has impacted the Halloween franchise beyond any other, that took it in a direction that, honestly, it still has yet to escape from. This franchise is yet to escape this movie. The franchise is yet to escape the trap that this movie placed on it. And I say trap. We'll get to the brother sister angle. We will. But like you go even to then. It's like even then where it's like they created it. They even 10 years later they moved on. The familicide angle is still there. And then you move on to your reboot with the H2O, etc. And then, of course, you get the Rob Zombies, which heavily use the brother-sister. They heavily use it. All the way up until the 2018 installment in the 2018 trilogy, which, yes, may have moved away from the brother-sister angle, but it's like, did it really move away? It's like, it did not move away from Michael and Laurie. It did not move away from that idea, kind of sort. This franchise has kind of been trapped in the angle of that this movie placed upon it, where it's like Jason kind of goes after different characters every time. You know what I mean? Freddy and Jason, they don't really have. It's just kind of different. It's just kind of different with the way that Myers does things versus the way that they do things. And they did things all throughout the 80s, all the way up until where we are now. Like, Myers has always just worked a little differently than the other slashers. And you have this movie to thank for that, for better or for worse. So, that being said, we will touch on this movie's complicated legacy as we continue on. However, we're going to go ahead and get started here actually discussing it. Now, in terms of this movie and like me rewatching it and all this shit, like a lot of these movies I've seen over and over and over and over again, especially as a child, where I would watch this shit. This shit used to be on AMC Fear Fest all the time, every October, and it still is for the most part. But it's like when I was a kid, lads, they would go Halloween, and it would be Halloween 4 and Halloween 5. They would have 1, 4, and 5 on over and over and over and over again while I grew up. like 2 would always get skipped. And even in the rare times that they had it on, it's like, I mean, I would watch it when it was on, but it's like, because I maybe have watched this one, you know, like for every time I watch this one, I've seen 1, 4, and 5 maybe 5 times. You know what I mean? So it's like, this movie for me, like, it's not one of those I have memorized off the top of my head where I can tell you pretty much every scene in 1, 4, and 5. You know what I mean? This movie, I know most of it, because again, it's not like I've certainly given this movie its fair share of viewings, but it's like, I gotta go back and rewatch this one. I can't just jump on a camera and tell you about it. I gotta go back and actually rewatch this one. So, we're just gonna go ahead, do what we usually do. We're going to get started just going over the plot, and we'll start, and then the bigger things that we will tackle, we will tackle them as they come up. That's kind of what we usually do. Again, we might be a little bit rusty here, just because we haven't done one of these in like what, 6 months or so? I think our last review that we did was our last full review that we did was fucking Lords of Salem. Is that right? I think so. The last one we did was Lords of Salem, and that was a confusing fucking movie. But, anyway, let's go ahead and get started with Halloween 2, 1981's version. And again, this is just going to be pure thought dump. Of course, some notes, other things on the franchise. I have some stuff written down here about other movies in the franchise that may have pulled from this, etc., etc. So, well, let's keep going. Let's go ahead and get started. This movie opens, okay, with Mr. Sandman. And Mr. Sandman is basically iconic in this franchise at this point. I believe it's an H2O as well. If I'm remembering correctly, it's an H2O. But like Mr. Sandman is basically, it's a Halloween song at this point to me. I hear Mr. Sandman, the first thing I think of is Halloween. So this is the movie to thank for that, because this is the movie that started it, and this is where it gained its icon status. So basically, you get the Mr. Sandman, it flashes the date, and you hear Laurie repeating lines from 78 with Tommy and Lindsay go to the McKinsey's house and tell them to call the police and tell them to send them over here, right? Yeah. So Tommy and Lindsay flee the house, and you guys basically get the recap of 78. But you can tell there's a new version of the theme, and just like the music choice, mwah. The new music for this movie, it's hit and miss. It's like, it's a hit and miss. Like, there's a few choices that don't work, but for the most part, the updated score that this movie got is very, very 80s, and I liked it. I enjoy it. It definitely enhances this movie and what it is trying to do, if you will. So basically, you get that recap of the 78 ending. Loomis shoots Myers and he falls off the balcony. Okay? So you get Loomis checking for Myers, and he isn't there, and this is where you actually start getting the new stuff. All right, Loomis goes out and he checks for Myers, and he finds Myers' blood. Okay, and then the neighbor comes out, and he goes, and the neighbor goes, "What's going on?" or whatever, and Loomis goes, "Call the sheriff. Tell him I shot him. Tell him he's still on the loose." Loomis in this movie is fucking great. Loomis is great in this movie. I mean, he always is. He doesn't have much to do. You don't get any characterization on him, and he's kind of just there to do the same thing he did in the last movie, which is, like, characterize Myers, but that's less needed in this movie. Like, his role of characterization of Myers is kind of less needed in this movie, because we already get it. You know what I mean? But that being said, he's still screaming like a maniac. You know, he kind of ups his performance in a way, because Loomis kind of, or he was like much calmer in the first movie. You know, he had a sense of calmness about him, but in this movie he's kind of like frothing at the mouth, first order type of. But it makes sense here, because like in the first movie it was a controlled situation. They were kind of trying to stop him silently, right? They were trying to silently stop him and shit, but it's like he's starting to kill people now. We got bodies are starting, so Loomis kind of just goes from 0 to 100 really fast due to that, as well as the encounter, right? So like Loomis kind of as the control of of the situation starts to slip out of the police department and Loomis himself as in their hands, his performance starts to radiate that lack of control, if you will. And that's where he gets the screaming and the intensity starts to show up. He's like, "You tell the sheriff I shot him." And the neighbor's like, "Is this a joke? I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight." And Loomis goes, "You don't know what death is," which is his fucking classic lines, dude. And then you get the new version of the theme where it goes, it's much louder, right? It's much louder, kind of more techno. Like the 70s had just ended. A much more techno and louder version of the theme. I enjoy this opening. I do. I like the way that it's structured. I enjoy it. You get that recap of 78. You could make a big cut and just seamlessly plop it in with 78. This is very much a partner piece to 78 in a lot of different ways. Not that it successfully does everything 78's trying to do, and we're going to get to that kind of stuff, but this movie objectively is the closest to matching the tone and feel of the 78 movie because they were made 3 years apart. And so you get the opening, and then you get the louder theme, and then the splitting of the pumpkin. We talked about this in the Halloween Kills review. But this type of imagery was good enough to get reused in the similar suggestions in that movie, where it's like that, like in Kills, it was more of a haunting atmosphere with like the burning pumpkins and the choir of like fucking women singing in almost despair, almost in Kills, where it's like kind of a hopeless situation, if like, you know what I mean. In this movie, it's very 80s. It's louder. But and the pumpkin splits, the theme does, and you see the skull. And both they're both suggesting a more violent Michael, where Kills just kind of did it in its own way, whereas this movie does it in its own way, right? You know what I mean? So, but like the idea that this movie is good and was good enough to be reused in Kills decades later. So in this era, you have to keep in mind where we are now. It's like why is Myers more? Why was this movie made the way that it was? And that's because the slasher subgenre it's in full swing now, where it's like Psycho planted the seeds, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Black Christmas kind of, you know, like basically like Psycho planted something, and then Texas Chainsaw and Black Christmas kind of cultivated it, and Halloween kind of, you know, shaped it along even more. And then this little movie called Friday the 13th came out, and that basically what Friday the 13th kind of showed you was you can make this cheap exploitation type of movie that doesn't have much of a plot and doesn't have much of a story, and you can make serious bank off of it, right? Whereas TCM, Psycho, Black Christmas, and Halloween are like structured narratives and stuff, where it's like, yes, there's slashers. Well, I know Halloween and Black Christmas are true slashers. There can be debate on if Psycho and Texas Chainsaw Massacre actually fit that genre to its fullest T, where they're like true slashers. But there's like Halloween's even more of like a thriller. Like the OG Halloween could even be considered more of a thriller than like a slasher. But that being said, Friday the 13th came out. That was a true slasher. But again, Friday the 13th doesn't exist without Halloween, right? It does, like Halloween. Basically, I don't want to say Halloween walks so Friday the 13th could run, because that's certainly not what it is. But it's like Friday the 13th doesn't exist without Halloween. It doesn't. But basically, what Friday the 13th, even though Friday the 13th is not a good movie, Friday the 13th, we talk about this because Friday the 13th is what fucking took what every movie was doing before it and basically put all the pieces together and said, this is what a slasher movie is. Okay? This is what a slasher movie is. This is not, we're not doing a thriller anymore, we're doing a slasher. This is a slasher. And basically, we live in this, when this movie came out in 1981, there were already 2 Friday the 13th movies already out. So basically, Friday the 13th Part 2 showed you that you not only can make a cheap movie that makes a shit zillion dollars, I don't know how much Friday the 13th made, but you can make these cheap movies that are successes and that don't take much talent or effort. I know Tom Savini busted his ass on the Friday the 13th, but you know, but you could do it again. You could not only do it, you could do it again. And so basically, Halloween 2 was an inevitability, based especially because there was like the cliffhanger and shit like that. But basically, Friday the 13th, basically, what it did was it kind of upped the gore, right? It upped the gore. And because it upped the gore, okay, it upped the gore, and that was basically part of of a slasher's identity, okay, is that those gory kills. And because Halloween kind of paved the way for Friday the 13th, there was I think there was a certain expectation in terms of the filmmakers as well as the people making it that you need to, like, you know, I don't want to say copy Friday the 13th, but you have to up the intensity of your movie. And the thing about it is, like, that's never the kind of movie that Halloween was. Halloween is not gory at all. It's not that's not the kind of movie Halloween is. Halloween uses suspense and atmosphere to create that sense of anxiety in its viewer. Okay? That's what it does. Friday the 13th is fucking gross out trash. You know what I mean? Friday the 13th is the bitch has an axe in her face. And that like, you know what I mean? There's a very good video on YouTube that explains, like, why Michael Myers is creepy. But it's like Jason Voorhees, Freddy, and Leatherface can't be considered creepy, whereas Michael is creepy. Like, he stares out the window and looks. He creates a sense of, like, dread that they don't, because like when Leatherface is coming at you with a chainsaw, you know what you're up against. Well, it's like, you know what Michael's gonna chase you and shit. But there's like a certain sense that Michael does a better job at creating anxiety than the other killers, right? Does that capiche? But basically, you know, we'll get to that later. But basically, the framework here is that this movie has a bit of an identity crisis, and I'm not saying that as if it's a bad thing. I'm not saying that if it's a bad thing. Maybe you could argue that it was trying to kind of marry what 78 was doing with what the slasher genre was becoming. But this movie, to me, when you watch it, it feels like it's having an identity crisis. And we'll kind of get to that. So basically, you can kind of tell the impact that a Friday the 13th had on this movie is what I'm saying. So you get some first-person shots, and you hear Michael breathe as he walks throughout Haddonfield, kind of deciding his next move. He kind of sees a dog that barks at him. He kind of sees Loomis from a distance getting in the car, and he dips behind. This is all in first person, which this is why it in 78 kind of feel like a partner piece. There's a lot of similar techniques, and again, we'll talk about this later. Yeah. This kind of thing was in the OG. Like, it could be, like, because a lot of tech shots of, like, first-person camera being used to simulate Myers' movement. Stuff that's, like, not in the other movies as much. I think there's some movies that kind of do them a little bit. Not really. If you can hear rain, it's because it's raining outside. And I'm in my car doing this. But I'm trying to think if there's any, like, first-person shots of him in the 2018 trilogy. I don't think there are. I don't think so. I made the flashback of him killing Judith, but that's about it. And I don't think there's any in the Rob Zombie. I don't know. I don't think it was. It's just one of those things. It connects this movie with 78 in a way that the other movies don't exactly have. There might be 1 in 5, actually. Yes, there's definitely 1 in 5 where Tina sits in the car. We'll get to that fucking shit. Jesus. But, you know, yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. But again, basically, but the argument still is that the way that the camera is used to do Myers in this, and like the way that there's a lot of first-person shots, it's done in this movie in a way that links it with the 78 movie more than any. Again, this is a companion piece to the 1978 movie in nearly every single way. So Loomis is still screaming his classic lines. I shot him 6 times! I shot him 6 times! He's not human! I shot him 6 times! Like, you know, like that classic way that we all eat up. Like, we just eat this shit up, bro. I do. I don't know if y'all do, but, like, I fucking eat the fucking Donald Pleasance. I shot him 6 times! And just all of his fucking lines, like, I could fucking put them on I would I seriously would, like, carve all of Loomis's lines, like, in my bed. Like, seriously, dude. I would seriously do that. Like, all of his lines in this movie, and then even in the other ones, are just golden. Just fucking golden. That's Donald Pleasance Loomis for you, though. So, Loomis basically leaves the scene, okay? Myers watches Loomis leave, okay? So, basically, Loomis, the savior, the sense of comfort to the viewer, because Laurie was like, you know, you're stand-in in the last movie, and when Loomis showed up, he was Deus Ex Machina and saved the day, right? But now that kind of savior is there. He was there, and now he's not there anymore. He left the scene. So Myers is by himself again. So now he can kind of move a little more freely. Like, the Myers was able to see that his biggest threat, gone. So now he can move a bit more freely. So now he can get back to work. He stalks an elderly couple through the window, and he grabs a knife while they're distracted listening to the news. And then, like, as they're listening to the news, you can kind of see him pop in the background and then dip out. It's pretty funny. The elderly lady looks like one of the characters from 2018 that's actually killed with the hammer. There's your Easter egg. I think I mentioned that in the 2018 review as well. But they gave a little nod to that. But actually, what's interestingly enough, Myers actually doesn't kill this couple. He just steals one of their knives and then leaves. You know? And their scream that they realize someone was in the house alerts, like, this teenager that comes out and, like, outside, right? And then she jumps back in. And she starts insinuating that the wife was, like, beating her. And again, you can just imagine, like, she sits there and goes, maybe he started beating his wife or whatever. You can just imagine Rob Zombie sitting there going, ooh, I have an idea about what to do with the setting. You know, a lot of this stuff, you can just imagine other... Because, you know, like, a lot of the, like, you know, whenever somebody makes a Halloween movie, they're not just watching the first one. They're obviously watching this one, too, because of its legacy with the franchise. But it's like, so you can just imagine a fucking Rob Zombie sitting there watching that line and going, yeah. That's the first thing I thought of when the person was like, maybe he's beating his wife. I'm like, oh, no, Rob. Don't give Rob any more bright ideas, bro. But anyway, so basically, Myers walks in as she's talking about the murders, okay? She's on the phone, the teenager. She's talking about the fucking murders. Myers comes in the house, okay? And then dumbass bitch, okay? She goes to the door. She's like, who is it? Like, what are we doing? I know it's a slasher movie, and it's like every time I review one of these things, I'm going to be talking about how dumb the characters are in these fucking movies. It's a trope. It's like, they're stupid. Like, it's like, again, it's kind of like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. What do you want me to do, shit on it? Like, they're stupid, dumb bitches in a slasher movie, bro. It's like, and again, I guess you could argue that Halloween should be above that sort of thing, but again, it isn't. It isn't. People do this kind of stupid shit all the time. In the Halloween series and in these fucking movies, it's just what you do. It's just, especially as the genre was getting more and more defined, like, certain expectations, like, it's stupid fucking dumbass fucking teens, it's just what you do, bro. Everybody acts like an idiot in these fucking movies. So dumbass bitch basically walks in, okay, and she enters the next room. Myers jumps and kills her, and then he stabs her, and then there's like a blood explosion. It's not like a huge blood explosion, okay? It's just, it's there to be like upped. Like, I remember when I was a kid and saw this, it kind of took me off guard. Again, I watched these movies as a kid, shoot me. But I remember as a kid seeing this, it kind of took me off guard just because, like, especially since 78 wasn't as gory as this one. Again, there's some gory moments in the other movies too, but it's like this in particular, because this is so stylized to be like 78, seeing the gore, it definitely took me off guard as a kid the first time. So I have a fond memory of that scene just because I remember being very taken aback as a kid seeing the gore. But it's like, this kill, and the kills in this movie are strange. There's a lot of kills in this movie that are just odd. And they're structured in a very, all the kills in this movie, except with the exception of like one, are structured in a very similar way, okay? Like, Myers will come in, okay? This was a stabbing, okay? He kind of jumps out and stabs her. That's the kill. When Myers is going to do a kill in this movie, okay, he jumps in the frame, okay, he's not in frame, he jumps in frame, the sound design goes, like, it makes like a shrieking noise, and then Myers will hit them with whatever he's going to hit them with, okay, knife, needle, hammer, etc. We'll get to all these, and then it's always very brief, and then it cuts away, okay? This happens, like, a lot in this movie, where it's, like, the violence in the movie is, they show, like, a thing for a brief second, and then it kind of cuts away. It doesn't savor the violence. It shows more, but it doesn't savor it, okay? If that makes any sense. It's not like a bloodbath, let me show you how gory we can get, like a Friday the 13th or some of the zombie movies that exist out there. It's there, you know what I mean? It's not enough to be, like, totally trashy, I get, for lack of a better word, like a Friday the 13th. It's definitely not that style, okay, if that makes any sense. But it's like, you will know that's the first kill of the movie. Again, I didn't think of any of it watching it, but it's like, after you watch, like, 4 kills in this movie, you start to notice that they are structured very similarly, okay? And again, this is, again, I'm not telling you what docks the movie points, what's not. I'm not doing that yet. It's like a repetitive kill, but a repetitive kill structure is something that you notice when you watch this movie. Where it's like, ideally, slasher movies should have kills that are structured in all kinds of different ways. That's not what you get here. The kills here are structured very, very similarly. So moving on, I just thought I would point that out. We get to see Laurie, and Laurie is wheeled out, okay? There's kind of Halloween music playing as they kind of board the ambulance. Laurie's requesting not to be put to sleep as they board her on the ambulance, okay? You then, okay, after she boards the ambulance, you then get this completely unrelated thing. And there's, like, 3 scenes of this where it's like, you see him enter, you see him in the hospital, and you see him leave. I don't know why this is there. I'm just going to mention it all right now. There's just this completely unrelated kid that comes out, like, choking on a razor blade. No idea why this is in the movie, because they don't do anything with it. It doesn't relate to the Myers plot in any way, and they're on screen probably less than a minute. So it's not like it's doing anything. It's just kind of there, and I don't understand why. The kid's kind of choking on the razor blade. I don't even know if that was even true. Wasn't that just a myth? That people put razor blades in the candy? Wasn't that just a myth? Like some Halloween urban legend or something? I don't know. I don't know. If y'all have any memories of razor blades in the Halloween candy, feel free to tell me about them. But I don't know. I thought that was a myth for some reason. I don't know. I guess I could be wrong. But I don't know. But it's like, I don't know why it's there, but I kind of like it. I don't even know why I like it. Like, I can't tell you why I like it. I mean, but it's just kind of like there's other shit going on in this town tonight, right? You know what I mean? I don't know. I guess that might be it. I can't even tell you why I enjoy this, it being in the movie. But it just is, and it's like, okay, that's interesting. Whatever. So Laurie's wheeled in. The doctor begins to evaluate her and the stab wounds. He gives her some shots and sedatives, and she's still adamant about not being put to sleep. Okay? Next scene, you get Loomis and Brackett driving again, and they're sweeping the city. Very Rob Zombie idea, by the way. Like, I think Rob Zombie, before he, again, I'm going to say, I like the Rob Zombie movies. Sorry, I'm going to talk about them when I feel like I can. I think Rob Zombie, before he made his Halloween remake, he watched 1 and 2. I really do. Just because of some of the similar things that you kind of see in them in a little bit. And this is one of them, where Loomis and Brackett just driving and they're sweeping the city. Rob Zombie, again, would go on to incorporate this idea much more in the 2007 remake. And then they bicker in the car, okay? Brackett's like, I'm at the point where I'm done taking orders from you, Doc, or whatever. Brackett also accuses Loomis of letting Myers out, something that would, again, go on to be in the Rob Zombie remakes, as well as Halloween 209, and then also go on to be used to attack Laurie in Halloween Ends. Fucking trash movie, but I thought I would at least mention that there. That, like, the idea of, like, these, of Myers and his actions being personally on somebody else, this very flawed idea that I don't understand, goes all the way back to this movie. And even then, if you want to have it, if you even want to go further, Brackett says, damn you for letting him go in the first movie. So, like, this idea that, like, Myers' actions can be placed on the other characters can even be traced back to 1978, and I do not understand why this is something that this franchise returns to over and over again, because they can, like, okay, Brackett saying, damn you for letting him go is, like, it's just one line, and it's like, you know, maybe I mean, it's like maybe you just give Loomis something to think about. It's like I don't fucking know, but it's like they really upped their usage of this idea, and I don't get it. I don't understand. And I hope that it's something that this franchise ends up dropping. It's just better off without it, and every time it's there, it just kind of boggles it down. I don't know. That's my opinion. But it's very easy to see where somebody like a Rob Zombie got the ideas for his films, especially with like upping the conflict between a Brackett and a Loomis and just kind of upping that a little bit, because like the seeds for that were always there. The seeds for that were always there. The seeds of, again, I've said this before, the seeds of Loomis being the way he is in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 were always in these movies. That's why that is why I've just decided to just not agree with that criticism of the second Rob Zombie movie anymore. The seeds of that character that Zombie gave you were always there. Starting in this movie specifically. Which is, by the way, where Zombie chooses to dump it in. He doesn't just give you white trash, terrible, awful Loomis in the first movie, right? I know I'm standing for the other Halloween 2 right now, but it's like, you can kind of just, like this, I'm talking about Loomis in this way, because like, the seeds of this guy being that way were always there. But again, I will shut up, because this is, like, I go into that in my Rob Zombie Halloween 2 review, so there's no need to say anything else about it here. But you get I tell you this isn't a man. Basically, Donald Pleasance doing a good job of carrying, basically, it's kind of his role to carry the intensity of the last movie's climax into this one, and I think he does a good job at that. So basically, they see what they think is Myers, okay? And Loomis just fucking jumps out of the car, okay? Here's Loomis being a fucking crazy person again, but yeah, this guy was always the beacon of righteousness, and he would never be a dick to anybody. So Loomis jumps out of the car. They see what they think is Myers. This guy, the hair of the mask is a completely different color, and the fucker's got a trick-or-treat bag, okay? Like, you know this guy isn't Myers. That being said, it's odd that he's, like, wearing a jumpsuit, too. That is odd. But they see, but Loomis about to fucking blow this fucking kid's head off, okay? He's fucking walking into the streets trying to fucking shoot the kid, and Sheriff Brackett's trying to, like, hold him back, right? Brackett's just sitting there pulling him back, okay? And then Brackett had just radioed a cop to come meet him in, and that cop comes fucking crashing in when Ben Tramer, that's who it is, big man meet Ben Tramer, walks in the street. Car fucking smashes into this kid and pins him up against the other fucking police car, and the kid just fucking gets scorched, okay? He fucking gets Anakin Skywalkered on the fucking car, and he just fucking goes down. He gets fucking Rayed, not Ray Skywalker, lol. I'm talking about Ray from 2018. You get fucking immolated. Just fucking, he's on fire, dude. And he just smashes him, and you hear Brackett yelling at Loomis, is it him, over and over again. And Loomis just kind of slowly realizing it's not as he watches the guy burn. Okay? And this is the point where I wrote down on my notes that this movie's having an identity crisis for the first fucking time. Okay? Because you have this movie, okay, where you'll notice that I'd say the car smashes into Ben Tramer probably about 19 minutes and 30 seconds into the movie, okay? It is not late in the movie that this car smashes into the kid. Like, it's early. It's very, very early, okay? Halloween 2, again, I wrote it down here, is suffering from an identity crisis. It doesn't know what it's trying to do. Again, you could say it's trying to marry them and it's intentional. It comes across that it doesn't know what it wants to be. It doesn't know if it's trying to fucking recapture what 78 was doing, or if it's trying to fucking turn what Jason was just starting to do and what Friday the 13th was starting to do and apply that to this Halloween movie to because again, there were no plans to turn this into a franchise. And that's something you have to keep in mind when you talk about it. There were no plans to turn this into a franchise. This was supposed to be a continuation of the story because it was objectively left unfinished, right? This was never meant to be a franchise, shown by the fact that they fucking made Season of the Witch. The fact that Season of the Witch even exists proves that this character was never meant to be a slasher franchise killer. Like, that wasn't ever meant to happen. They abandoned him in the midst of the slasher subgenre being at its most popular, right? And they abandoned him for Season of the Witch, which, again, that movie, that's a review for another day. Not even going to comment on that here. But it doesn't know if it's trying to kind of capture that kind of Jason-esque kind of flavor of the moment or keep true to what they were doing. So what you end up getting is something that's doing both. You get a little bit of both. But jack of all trades, master of none. It fails to recreate 78 because 78 was a movie that thrived on suspense and pacing. Okay? Well, the pacing of this movie is nowhere near as good as 78. But it's also, as we established by the very similar kill structure, okay, he might be using different weapons, but the kills are structured in a very similar way. Don't even tell me that Friday the 13th kills are also structured in a similar way. I'm going to rip that franchise a new asshole one day, okay? I'm going to tell you everything wrong with Friday the 13th one day, okay, and how trash that franchise actually is. The franchise sucks. Friday the 13th is trash. 4, 6 in the remake. I like 7 too. 4, 6, 7 in the remake. Everything else in that franchise fucking sucks. Sorry. I like 3 too. Sorry, I'll give 3 a break. And I guess 2's alright. But it's like, they're okay. Like, I'm saying, they're okay movies. They're alright. Like, Halloween 2 is better than over half that franchise. And this movie's, like, mid in this franchise. Sorry, that's a spoiler for the end. But, you know, whatever. But, again, a jack of all trades, master of none. You don't have the same memorable kills that a Friday the 13th does. Friday the 13th, like, you have, of course, the arrow going through Kevin Bacon's neck, I believe, is the most famous kill of that movie. And then you got things like Pamela's head getting yeeted off and all that shit. There's that kill in the woods where it's like they slashes I don't know if it's a girl or a guy. I kind of forget, but like Pamela slashes the throat. I think there's a kill with a wheelchair in 2 that's pretty good, right? It's like you can like Friday the 13th kills are all so memorable. You know, that's just not that's not here, especially with how structured they're structured like that. So jack of all trades, master of none is my point with that. Because it's trying to kind of do both, you're not gonna master any one of them. Okay? That's where the identity crisis kind of comes in. But anyway, again, the slasher subgenre was new. They were seeing what they should do with it. You know what I'm saying? Anyway. Again, just to add to that, you know, it still does similar camera tricks, music cues, has the characters in similar places, similar lighting, similar, like, again, camera stuff. It still has that flavor. They even, as the 78, similar props. So, like, it's trying to capture that same feel that it did, but also, it's also, at the same time, it's much louder, it's less subtle, it is paced much different, and it's worse. And again, you got an immolation 20 minutes into the goddamn movie. The 78 version would never, right? The 78 version, it would never do that. Because that's not what it's trying to do. The 78 version scared you by having Myers walk around for 40 fucking minutes. That's what it did. All Myers does in that movie is fucking walk around, stalk people, pull fucking shit over, and then he starts killing people like 45 minutes into the movie. He literally scares you in the first act of the movie by just walking around, right? He doesn't need to light somebody on fire, you know. But that's all my notes on that. Okay, the next part is where a cop comes over, tells Brackett that 3 bodies were found, okay? And one of them was Annie. Like, he's like, one of them was Annie. And then Brackett, like, grabs him and they all, like, drive off. That was odd. That came across as kind of odd. So, we now have this. We now have this. Here's where like the movie structure gets a bit weird, because you had Loomis at the Doyle house, right? Which, and we know that Annie, Linda, and Bob were across the street, right? You then had Loomis shoot him 6 times, and then he drives in the car. He yeets off. They murder Ben Tramer, and then they get a call. It's like, oh, we found bodies in that house you were just at. So then they have to go back. They're like doing this giant, like, circle or 180. Like, they go to one place, they're at a place, they leave, they have to go back to the same place. It's almost like they should have structured it to where it's like Loomis should be standing there stationary with Laurie. Like, you know what I mean? He should be there with Laurie until she gets yeeted off. maybe ask her some questions, like if it's like why he's there. But like they instead have him go right after Myers and then immediately lose him, where it's like Myers is on foot, so he doesn't really leave the vicinity very fast either, right? Okay. It's just like they should have stayed there and taken care of all the business in that one location first, so they didn't have to yeet the characters off and then yeet them back as fast as possible. They yeeted them off, yeeted them back to the same location in the span of like 25 minutes, when they should have just taken care of everything right there. Laurie leaves, and then they find the other bodies, and it's right there. Okay? That's why I just feel like they should have done that. It would have just helped the movie's pacing a little bit. Like if Loomis had just stopped and listened to Laurie, it feels like they could have found those bodies 5 minutes into the movie. But instead, you have to wait 25, because Loomis didn't stop for 30 seconds, you know? Which Loomis is losing his mind. That's what's happening, but, you know. So, there's this guy, Jimmy. He, likes Laurie or something at the hospital. He does prove he's a man of culture by offering Laurie a Coke, so that's nice. And then the hospital people, try to keep him out. So that's what's going on there. That happens throughout the movie. I don't get it, but whatever. Getting back to this shit with Brackett and Loomis, okay? Brackett shows up and they find Annie's body, okay? He then's like, I gotta go call my wife and tell her before someone else does. And then he yells at Loomis again, you let him out! Or whatever. Yeah, we already talked about that, though. This scene is the only scene where Loomis kind of quiets down, right? Because he feels bad for Brackett, which is nice. But it is noticeable that Loomis does have a much lower volume in this one scene. However, then they make a mistake. The mistake that they make is they write Brackett out of the movie and he doesn't show up again. I completely do not understand why Brackett is written out of this movie. I don't understand. I guess, in universe, it's like he had a psyche kind of thing where it's like they just said, okay, your daughter's dead, that you gotta go be with your wife and shit. It's personal. We really can't have you on the case. It's a conflict. I don't know. But I think the Brackett, the guy who played Brackett, I think his name's Lee or whatever, but he shows you in this movie, because I say Brad Dourif is the best Sheriff Brackett ever, and he is. Brad Dourif is the best Sheriff Brackett ever, do not fight me. But what Lee, I think his name is Lee, but what the actor showed you here is, he was definitely capable of having and giving an intense performance in this role. His character was just written out. The fact that he's not the best Sheriff Brackett ever isn't really his fault, because they didn't do anything with his character in this movie where he actually would have had a much bigger role. Whereas in 78, it was just they didn't really know where Myers was, and they were kind of agreeing with that this shouldn't be that big of a problem. But it's like, okay, now it's a really big fucking problem, and Brackett should be kind of taking over and kind of taking this into his own hands, which, guess what? I'm going to say this again, is what Rob Zombie does in Halloween 2, where it's like when the situation with Brackett, once the situation starts affecting Brackett personally, he's gonna go kick this man's fucking ass, right? And that's kind of what you want to see, especially in the Rob Zombie version. But it's like you can kind of see here. Well, I guess I know y'all are gonna kill me for continuing to talk about the Rob Zombie versions, but the reason I bring it up is you can kind of see, if you watch the older movies and you have a true understanding of them, I'm not gonna justify every decision that Rob made, and I'm not gonna spend this whole review justifying Rob's decisions. But you can kind of see that there are some flaws. What I'm saying here is that there were some flaws in this script and its world building and stuff that didn't make any sense. It makes no sense for Brackett's character to be cut in this movie. Okay? That's what I'm telling you. After he finds his daughter is dead, it makes no sense for his character to fucking yeet his ass out of the movie and be gone. I don't understand that. I've never agreed with that choice, even when I was 8 years old. Even when I was 8 years old, I say, why does he leave the movie? I don't understand why he leaves and doesn't come back. He feels like he should be in this a lot more than he fucking is. And he's just not. It just doesn't make any sense to me why he goes away. Okay? So it's like, yeah, I do kind of have a soft spot for Rob, who actually, when you kind of analyze the issues with the old world building here, and kind of analyze some of the stuff that was actually taking place, you can kind of see how some of the things he did in the 2 movies he made fucking made a bit more sense than you might have saw in your first couple viewings. Okay? So again, I'm trying to tie what Rob's solution was because again, right, into the fact that there were things that kind of needed a quality of life improvement, and that's why a change was made. Okay? You're tying it back to this one. The fact that Brackett leaves the movie is a mistake. Sorry. Like, that's a mistake. So then they switch to this new guy that's not as good, and he's far less memorable, and he just kind of takes over the investigation. Again, I don't agree with that choice, but whatever. But basically, he's there so Loomis can just spout out his pure evil lines to different guys. You know what I mean? Because now we got a fresh face who doesn't understand what's going on here. So that gives Loomis a chance to go, like, he says all of his spiel, right? They also decide to go to the coroner's office, okay, to make sure that Ben Tramer is Michael Myers, which we know he isn't, okay? Basically, this is done so Loomis, even though you know it's not, and Loomis, based on his facial expressions, kind of knows it's not. The reason that Loomis is going to the fucking coroner's office is very obvious. Oh my god, it's starting to rain here. Y'all hear that? Lol. The reason that Loomis is going to the fucking coroner's office, okay, it's because we got to get Loomis out of the way so that Michael can go unchallenged for about 45 minutes in this movie. That's why Loomis is going to the coroner's office. We have to have Loomis on a fucking side quest, basically, because the cops aren't going to do anything. They think Michael's is dead. So, like, Loomis has to go on the side quest for 45 minutes just so Myers can walk around the streets of Haddonfield unchallenged. So stupid shit happens, and then you see a guy who's carrying a big radio talking about on the radio that Laurie was taken to the fucking Haddonfield Memorial Hospital. That guy just conveniently bumps into Michael Myers, and then Michael Myers just starts walking to the hospital. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and say this now, because this is where it starts to become noticeable for the first time. Okay? The guy who plays Myers in this, I forget his name. I don't know his name. There's a lot of other channels that can do that for you. This ain't one of them. Myers, in this movie, okay, the way that he moves doesn't work. Okay? And all, it's like, the way he moves in this, okay, he walks very briskly. He doesn't move his arms very much. He doesn't, nothing but move his arms. He doesn't move really any part of his body very much. Like, he kind of moves like a robot or an android. He's very stiff, okay? I don't agree with that movement choice at all. And it doesn't really come back in 4 or 5 or any other of the movies. It's just in this one that he walks like this. I don't know. You could argue it was because of the bullets that are making him walk like that. That might be the in-universe explanation. But it's like he just he walks around all stiffy. Okay, for lack of a better, he's very stiff, and it looks very inauthentic and very unnatural. Myers. If you, like, the time-tested, if you want to watch how Michael Myers moves, okay, now, the only scene that you need to watch is the 1978 Final Chase. If you're playing Michael Myers, okay, the very first scene you should pull up is Nick Castle 1978 Final Chase. Because that is an actual perfect representation of the way Myers is supposed to move. Obviously, nowadays, you can watch anything that James Jude Courtney did in 2018 in Kills, because he is the best Myers ever. I'm so sorry to say that. I know that's not purist and original to say, but James Jude Courtney knocked it out of the fucking park. But Nick Castle set the framework. So, I mean, and that is still Myers' best scene ever put to film, is the Final Chase. So if you want to see how Michael Myers fucking moves, that's the scene, especially when he's going to work, that's the shit that you watch. This shit you get in this movie, he's very stiff, and it can kind of take you out of the movie on some instances just because he moves the way that he does. Might comment on that again later, I might not. We will see. Okay. So, Myers, the next shot, after you see him, you then see that the fucking guard at the hospital is fucking reading a newspaper or something. You see Myers clearly walk across the security camera, okay? He walks across the security camera, and the guard that gets paid to watch that security camera isn't paying attention, okay? That begins one of my biggest issues with this movie. I understand that this movie is a classic, and I understand that people like this movie. And I understand that some people rate this movie very high on their list, okay? One of my biggest issues with the movie, and it's something I've tried to forgive this aspect of the movie several times, and I'm just completely unable to. I have to say it. The setting in this movie does not work. It doesn't work, bro. The setting of the movie doesn't work. The hospital is not a place where the kills should happen. Okay? It's not a place that the kills should happen. It doesn't make any sense. I get it that it's like, oh, we need a news setting that's kind of scary. We're on the same night, and Laurie's going to the hospital, so... I mean, the same night thing it's the same night thing. It's the decision to set it on the same night kind of fucks them. But it doesn't work. The hospital doesn't. It doesn't work beyond a surface level. But it's a scary setting. You can do some scary things at a hospital, bro. Because they have to contrive everything to make it work. Like, they have to. That's the only way it works. The very first thing that happens in this setting is contrived. Where it's like, okay, the guard's a lazy piece of shit who's not watching the security camera. That's the only way Myers arrives at the fucking place unnoticed. That's the only way it works. Right? All the way from the security camera to the place just being a ghost town throughout the movie that has maybe 10 employees. It's a fucking 3-story building with 10 employees, as far as I know. And they all 10 get killed. All I see is 10 employees, bro. Like, I can't buy into the premise of one man in a Halloween mask. Right, Corey? He's just a man in a Halloween mask, right, Corey? I can't buy, I know he's supernatural, but I still can't buy the idea that no one saw him doing anything at the hospital. I can't. Especially in these later movies where it's just like that everyone sees him everywhere, right? I can't buy that he's just walked around a hospital, especially, like, have y'all ever been to a hospital? Well, it's in the 80s, Rosie. It's in the 80s. It's different. I can't buy it, bro. I just can't buy it. I feel like he should have been caught. And I can't ever not think that. And now you're hearing, but Rosie, man, it was in the Rob Zombie Halloween 2, man. You really like the Halloween 2, man, from the Rob Zombie, man. And he chased him in that one too, man. No, he didn't. It's hypocritical, man. No, it's not. He didn't chase Michael Myers did not chase anybody at a hospital in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. That was a dream sequence. Now, the dream sequence was trash for other reasons. The dream sequence was trash for other reasons. It had nothing to do with the visuals or anything like that. The sequence itself is shot well and looks really good, and Myers is brutal and all that fun shit. But it's like, it's a dream sequence. It's bad pacing in the movie. Dreams are bad. You shouldn't really use those. Some people defend it in there. I don't. I don't think Rob Zombie needed that. But it's like, actually, again, if the more you pay attention to this movie, the 1981, you actually see how good that dream sequence actually is. Like, I actually like the dream sequence a little bit more now, just because of the attention to detail that Zombie had in it. But again, that's for, like, if I decide to relook at Halloween 2 in a couple years. But it was a dream sequence. Rob Zombie's Michael Myers does not chase one person inside of a hospital in his canon. It was a dream. So that's out, and that makes, because it's a dream, it actually works, right? Because it's like, okay, it's a dream. That's why there's nobody there, it's a dream. But, you know, yeah, but Rosie, man, it was in Halloween Kills too, man. Yeah, but Myers doesn't do anything. He doesn't kill anybody in that. The mob gets incited at the hospital, but Mike Myers doesn't kill anybody at the hospital. It's for a different purpose. Again, equally as trash. But whatever. The hospital does not work as a place for a slasher villain to do the killings. If you're going to do a hospital, you're probably doing a supernatural story, like ghosts. That's what you should be doing at a hospital. But, you know. I just feel like Myers would have been caught. But, you know. So the hospital workers talk about Myers, and one of the girls is like, my friend saw him, and then the guy Ben in the movie, I think his name's Ben, he's a funny guy. He's like, the girl's like, my friend Julie saw him, and he's like, Julie's full of shit. She's a goddamn moron anyway, or something like that. It's really funny. And the girl's like, every word out of your mouth is hell, shit, or damn. And then Ben goes, sorry, I guess I just fuck up all the time. And he makes a face at her. It's really funny. I like that scene. Ben then bullies Jimmy, okay? And then we see Myers is in the hospital because Jimmy leaves the room, and then you see Myers, like, shutting a door. You don't see him, but, like, a door is slowly shutting. It's not exactly fucking a nurse, is it? Okay, so Myers is in the hospital, and a nurse is coming, okay? This is another thing I didn't buy. He hides from the nurses, okay, by sitting with the babies. You know, there's like a designated area of a hospital, like where they put newborns, right? There's like they put newborns in this. I don't know what the fuck it is. If y'all know what that, but it's like Myers hides with the fucking babies. Like, how does he hide in that room with the babies? And again, where are their parents? Aren't they at this hospital too? How do they not hear of all the shit that goes down in this movie? Like, I can't buy this deserted hospital, especially now that you just showed me the fucking babies that are in this hospital. So it's like, okay, it's not deserted, and all the lights are off. I don't get the setting choice here. I don't. Whatever. What the fuck? How much staff's actually at the hospital? I have that written down when I saw the babies. So Jimmy comes in and tells Lori that Michael Myers was the one who was after her, and she basically remembers who he is, like, from the Myers house? And then Lori asks, why me? Which is the first instance of quote-unquote foreshadowing that there's a reason that Myers was walking after her specifically. And then another nurse comes in and tells Lori that they can't get hold of her parents, okay? This is, again, like, that's real convenient that they can't get a hold of her parents, almost like the rest of the movie has to happen, right? Well, again, so it's like the parents were at a party, and now nobody can just get a hold of them, and they're not at the house. Where are they? We don't know where they are. They're never mentioned again. They don't even show up at the end after everything is over. You know where they are in the Rob Zombie version at this point? They're dead. Myers went and killed them. Clear up that loose end really fucking quick. Myers went and killed them. So they're out. You know what I mean? Again, an instance of Rob Zombie correcting some of these two movies is flawed world building. Again, I'm just common Rob Zombie W. But again, Myers apparently cuts the power to all the phones in the hospital, and now, like, none of the phones are working, okay? So the mechanic goes to see, like, what the fuck is wrong with the phones. Oh no, here comes the kill. So there's, like, a fake-out jump scare with some weasel or some shit. He's checking the storage rooms, and then, like, he gave a nurse a walkie-talkie before he, like, goes down there. And I don't know why the walkie-talkie doesn't work. It either doesn't work because she's a woman, or it doesn't work because it actually is not working. We're not really sure which one it is. I mean, it could just be that she's a woman and doesn't know what she's doing, but I don't know. I mean, she says that she doesn't know how to work it, so it might just be that she's a woman, but we'll see. There's nothing more that you can do. So basically, he shuts the door, and again, here's that familiar kill structure, where Myers comes out with the hammer, and he slams it on the guy's face, which is a little bit more brutal than you would think it is. It's very, like, again, it's not gory, it's just, like, he slams the hammer, and it makes a weird sound, and, like, the way that the hammer hits whatever it was hitting, is, like, I don't know if it was hitting, like, a prop or something, but it's like the way it, like, seems to etch into the guy's face is, like, it's just a bit more brutal than it comes across as. But again, it quickly cuts away. Like, so, like, again, that very similar of, like, you're seeing something a bit more brutal than you did in 1978, but then it cuts away from it really fast because it's not a Jason movie either. You know what I mean? So it's like, it doesn't satisfy your full gore hound inside of you either. It's like, I kind of wanted just a little bit more there. We got something brutal. Like, I would have liked to, like, see it, like, a hammer, like, etched in his face, and then Myers, like, maybe yanks it out and then hits him one more time before we cut away. You know what I mean? So, but it's also, like, not nothing. Like, it's not like that he slits Annie's throat either. Like, there's a little bit more to it there. I don't fucking know. So, basically, after that, you see, we get to the coroner, and then the coroner's extracting a tooth of the dead guy, which is Ben Tramer, and then he says he's likely that this kid is 17, but it's going to take hours to get a real match. So Loomis insists like it has to be treated as if Myers is alive, and the cop agrees, and they move out. Again, this doesn't... It's just keeping Loomis away from where he needs to be. That's what's happening right now. Then you get to see a scene that should give you PTSD if you don't like Evil Dies Tonight. It's a group of angry Haddonfield residents throwing shit at the Myers house, okay? This scene, they're throwing rocks at the Myers house, they're breaking the windows and shit. This scene likely inspired a drunk David Gordon Green to write the Evil Dies Tonight plotline for Halloween Kills. So that scene should give you PTSD if you don't like Evil Dies Tonight! Evil Dies Tonight! Evil Dies Tonight! Like, if you don't like hearing that 85 times, well, this is probably the scene to fucking yell at. Because this is probably what made David pen that in the first place. But, so, there it is. So, while Loomis and the cop are moving through this mess, okay, some teens come up and they said, we're about Benjamin Tramer, because he didn't come home yet. He was 17 and wearing a dumb mask. And Loomis is like, fuck, check his dental records. Right? Which, again, I don't even know if they ever get those records out, but yeah, it was Ben Tramer. Myers is alive, because of duh. So, another nurse comes in, and then she's pulled into, a rape kiss by funny man Ben, and they proceed to do cliche slasher things in a cliche slasher movie, and then he says, this caught me off guard, he's like, we should go to the therapy room. What the fuck is a therapy room, and do hospitals even have them? I don't know what the fuck he's talking about, which is if there's a hot tub in there or whatever. Do hospitals have therapy rooms? I don't know. And I didn't bother to look it up, because I'm just reviewing a movie from the fucking 80s. So, I didn't bother to look it up. It just feels like there's an excuse to, have a nude scene or whatever the fuck. I don't fucking know. But, so, there you go, bro. I don't even know if they have these things. After that, we're treated to this dream sequence or a flashback or some fucking horse shit where a young Laurie asks her mom, why don't you ever tell me anything? And then her mom turns around and she's like, I told you I'm not your mother. What? Okay, I get that they're doing the brother-sister thing, but excuse me? What is the fucking context of the scene and what the fuck is happening and what is that? Is that a dream sequence or is it a flashback? If it's a dream sequence, I mean, I guess that would explain why it didn't make any sense, but it also doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. What's the context here? Was Laurie being a little shit? But it's if this was an actual flash, why is the mom being a passive-aggressive bitch? I don't think that's how actual adopted parents treat their adopted children. So that took me out of the movie for a second. You should have, if you were doing a flashback or something, why couldn't you have, a young Laurie sitting in, the corner of the room where she's, coming downstairs from napping or something, and she's, 10 or whatever, and the parents are discussing when to tell her that they're not her real parents. Why couldn't you do that instead? Much more subtle, way less cringe. Right? You have this 12-year-old Laurie just learning on the staircase by herself that she's not related to her parents or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? Would have been way better than what we got in this movie. I don't fucking know. I just don't get the context. I don't know why that was said. But anyway, so we then see young Laurie looking at who we know as young Michael at the asylum. If you also watch the Halloween 1978 TV version, you also know it's Michael because it's reused footage of him from that TV spot, if I'm not mistaken. So you then know the twist already if you've seen the 78 TV version at the time. There you go. We then get to see what the therapy room is. I don't know if this is a real thing in hospitals. So you see Ben and the nurse, okay? The nurse comes in and she shows you the goods. So she's not bad. She's not bad. She's pretty good actually. She's a slight butterface. Definitely worse butterfaces out there than she is. But it's the body's a 9 or 10. The body's a total 9 or 10, but the face is a 6 or a 7, right? The body doesn't match the face 100%. You know what I mean? Sorry, guys, I'm a man. I'm going to be commenting on the women that show the goods. Yeah. But, so, then they do slasher movie things, bro. You know what I mean? But, so they're doing slasher movie things, and then she says the water's too hot, which is actually really funny, because if anybody knows the behind-the-scenes kind of shit, that water was actually freezing cold. That water was actually fucking freezing. But, in the context of the movie, it's too hot. So then you see Myers come and you see his hand, he turns the knob and turns it up, right? So it's just getting hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter. So Ben leaves to go turn it up because, like, she's like, I'm not giving you any more until it's fucking turned up, right? Turned down. So Ben goes to turn it down. Myers comes behind him. I think he strangles him with I don't know if it was like a cord or something. He strangles him. It kills him really fucking fast. Ben must have really bad lungs. But so Myers strangles him for I think it's maybe 7 seconds, and then drops him to the floor. He's totally dead. Then he comes in. Then this is when you get the best kill of the movie because it's structured. This sequence was structured the most differently, so it is the best kill of this movie. IMO. The kill with the scalpel is pretty good too, but I don't think it tops this one. He basically comes in, he touches her on the shoulder before giving her the kill of the movie, where he dunks her in the... I think this is... It might not be the most famous kill of the movie because she's nude, so you'll get the scalpel kill a little more in videos and stuff, but he kills her by submerging her, putting her back out, and he likes to fucking put her in and out until her fucking skin is fucking completely scalding, right? And then he chucks her, once her skin is peeling off, he then chucks her on the floor. So, there you go. That's a good kill. That's a damn good kill. That is my favorite kill of this movie. Then you see Loomis at a school or fucking something. I don't know why Loomis is at a fucking elementary school. There's a knife standing at the desk and Sam Haines written on the, blood on the chalkboard. Really feeling that writer's block, John Carpenter, by the way. Yeah, if y'all know, John Carpenter said he wrote the brother-sister angle when he had writer's block. I would imagine that he also had writer's block when he wrote this scene, because this scene doesn't make a lick of fucking sense. I don't know what it's fucking doing here, and I don't know what it adds to this fucking movie. They're just fucking masturbating in a school for 5 minutes until Marion comes in. You know Marion? She was in the first movie because Myers ripped her out of the car, right? Marion comes in, and she's in this movie. She actually dies and kills. I think she dies in H2O, too. But she's in this movie. She's in this movie, and she's like, I gotta speak to Loomis privately, okay? Marion says that Loomis has been ordered back to Smith's Grove by the governor, okay? Because Smith's Grove wants Loomis away from the scene because they essentially want to cover their own asses. They don't want anybody from their hospital near what's going on. They want the police to handle it. And there's a court-martial waiting for him outside to bring him back to Smith's Grove, okay? Loomis is a very missed opportunity in this franchise, okay? He really is. Because, what is Loomis there to do? Loomis is there, and again, in 78, this works. In 78, this works, and that's the one that matters. But it's Loomis is there to basically talk for Myers, okay? And you can kind of see his deterioration throughout the original series as, how Myers is, affecting him, right? You can kind of see that. It's how dealing with Myers can impact a person's life, right? That's what he's kind of there to show you. But we never get to see any details of the Donald Pleasence Loomis's life. If I were making a Halloween trilogy, okay? If I were making a Halloween trilogy, the star of the trilogy would be Dr. Loomis. The main protagonist and main character of the series would be Dr. Loomis, not Laurie Strode. Not that Laurie Strode is bad, it's just that story's been told already. Dr. Loomis' story has not really been told. He's there to follow Myers around in every appearance that he's in, right? Now, again, that's why, maybe you keep me telling me about the Rob Zombie one. This is why I found the zombie take so refreshing. Not that you got a lot from him, but you got a little bit more than you did in the original series, objectively, even though it wasn't very good. It was still interesting to, see, because you got to see, how, again, you just got to see a little bit of how, Loomis was, tired, and, the way he dealt with the situation became differently and more deranged over time because he's just sick of doing it, right? But it's you got to see Malcolm McDowell Loomis when he was away from Myers. You could see how Myers, caused him to change every day personally, right? You got to see that in his personal life. Whereas, like, you only get to see Donald Pleasence Loomis when he's working and in action. You never get to see him doing his personal things, right? But anyway, but it's like, what I'm saying is, like, if I was doing a Halloween trilogy, it would be kind of all about Loomis. It would kind of be all, like, Myers in my Halloween trilogy might die in number 2. And number 3 might just be all about how Loomis has lost his fucking mind and become like a Citizen Kane-esque figure in the political sphere, right? It really wouldn't be a horror movie. But, like, you could make a very decent psychological thriller starring Dr. Loomis without Michael Myers. Honestly, you really could. And that's what, if I was doing a trilogy, that's what it would be about. But, anyway. And I don't know what I was even going into there. But it's just that, that kind of, I guess it got set up. It's like Smiths Grove ordering Loomis back to the, like, you could make I swear, man, just like, the amount of stuff that you could do with a character like Dr. Loomis in the context of this Michael Myers written thing, that's where the next potential of the franchise is. We've seen the Laurie Strode thing done to death. Dr. Loomis is a very underutilized character the more you think about it. But anyway, so Jimmy's back talking to Laurie. Laurie doesn't do shit in this movie. And by the way, that wig she's wearing in this movie looks atrocious. But whatever. Laurie doesn't do shit in this movie. Jimmy's talking to Laurie in her sleep or something, like he's a weirdo. Like, he thinks she's, like, sleeping, but she's, like, sleeping with her eyes open, okay? Or she's, like, passed out or something. Jimmy, like, does the hand thing with the eyes. And it's like, oh, no, what's going on? And then gets the nurse, and the nurse is like, oh, my God, she's having a reaction, okay? She's having an allergic reaction to what was pumped inside of her, okay? The nurse then goes to get to the doctor, but the doctor's already dead. There's a syringe in his eye. And then you get a shot that's reminiscent of Myers stalking Laurie in 78, right? When Laurie finds all of her friends dead, and you get him slowly fucking coming in from the shadows, right? You kind of get that shot again, and then he grabs her head, okay? And the way that the two shots are used, they don't really work together, and it creates a very awkward kill, okay? The kill is awkward, because He grabs her head, and then he puts the needle in her, okay? But, like, the shot of him putting the needle in her eyes are completely different from where they were a second ago, and the two shots just don't work together to create a good kill. Again, it's like, okay, the needle's going in her, but it's like, the more you study the kill, the more awkward it actually is. Not my favorite kill in the franchise. Not my favorite kill. Just because the blocking, the shot selection really, it's not even the blocking, it's more just on the shot selection. And how they didn't really make it as consistent as they could have. So I don't like that kill very much. And then he does like a head tilt, okay, right? And again, how is this Myers not being caught as he's doing any of this? I still don't really understand that. He then walks into another room. The next shot is Myers walking into a room with a scalpel. Very good weapon choice for Myers, and I wish he would use a scalpel again. I like the choice of a scalpel on Myers because, like, it's a fitting weapon for him specifically, where it's like Jason and Bubba. Bubba, chainsaw fits Bubba, I guess, because it's like Bubba's can be loud. Like, Bubba's loud like a chainsaw, and he does like a Bubba is a chainsaw is a good weapon for Leatherface because a chainsaw is loud and destructive and shit. Okay, but it's like Leatherface is the family's chainsaw, right? Yeah, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Bubba uses the chainsaw, but he's the family's chainsaw. He's loud. He's like. He's in your face. He's loud. He's the standout thing in the family. Just like the chainsaw is the standout of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The chainsaw is as a weapon of choice stands out, whereas Bubba stands out within the family. Right? That's why I think that's his signature weapon for a reason. And the family uses him kind of like their personal fucking chainsaw. If that makes any sense. Like the chainsaw is a fitting weapon for Leatherface for that reason. Where it's like they match each other in intensity and the usage, where it's like Bubba's using the chainsaw to kill, and so is the family using that loud instrument that it's kind of a tool to fix things and cut some stuff down, but it's being used by like bad people to do bad things, if you will. I'm trying to explain this as best I can, but it's getting late. I'm getting tired. But, like, it fits it. Where it's like Jason, okay, Jason uses blunt instruments and because he's a fucking hardcore fucking... He's a variety show. That's why Jason can kill you with anything. And then Freddy, his hand with the hand glove, it's like a more personal kind of thing, where it's like Freddy's got the more, he kind of violates you a little bit. It's like his hand kind of doing it. It's a little bit more personal, I guess. Whereas Myers with the scalpel, Myers is an efficient but yet still brutal killer. And, like, that's like a scalpel being used to, like, do surgical incisions. A very good choice for a killer like Myers to kind of use a scalpel, if that makes any sense. I guess what it's just like the weapon of a slasher is important. Okay, I wish I could explain the chainsaw one just a little bit better. It's just something I'm thinking of off the top of my head right now. But the choice of Myers to use a scalpel, very good choice, and I wish he would use it again. But, and then there's the stiffness that we talked about earlier. Again, I noticed it there too. So, basically, after the complaint about the stiff moving, he stabs the bed and lifts it out, but Laurie's already gone. Which doesn't make any sense, because wasn't she just out a second ago with an allergic reaction to her fucking medication or whatever the fuck? So, like, was she baiting everybody? Like, I don't know what the fuck happens there. So, like, she was fucking having an allergic reaction fucking 3 minutes ago, and now she's running down the hallway. Like, I don't fucking get that. Did John Carpenter just forget what he did to Laurie? I don't fucking understand that. But, so, Myers is walking down the hallway. I don't know if there was a slight music miscue or they just made a bad choice, but I don't think the Myers stalking music, like the music that plays where he's stalking you, fitted this particular scene very well, because he was, like, kind of looking for her and kind of chasing her. He wasn't really stalking her, where it's like the dun 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 dun. Like, I don't think that fit this scene. I don't know. Maybe it might just be my personal take, though, because it wasn't really a full chase sequence either. I don't get it. The cop assures Loomis that they're gonna find they're gonna find Myers as Loomis is getting dragged off to the car with Marion. So you get that scene. So then you get the final nurse running around. Myers is still walking. And then Jimmy finds that nurse, okay? And then so Jimmy says, we're both looking for Laurie. You look one more place and then leave, which I guess was supposed to be reminiscent of fucking go to the McKenzie's house and call the police and send them over here. I don't know. Maybe that was. Maybe it wasn't. Myers is just sitting there listening to him, though. So, like, he knows they're looking for Laurie. Whew. I'm almost done here, lads. Jimmy is looking around, basically. And then the music that plays as Jimmy looks around is actually better and would have been a better choice for the scene with Myers and Laurie. Looking for Laurie just because the characters are a little bit more embroiled, right? They're a little bit more important. So I think that music would have fit a little bit better. And maybe you bit the dun 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 dun. You put that here. I don't know. Maybe. I'm just thinking. So then Jimmy then finds the boss nurse, okay? And then he finds her blood on the ground. She's like, she's been drained of all of her blood. You actually don't get that kill in the movie. I wish you would kind of see what Myers did there to, like, drain all of her blood. Looks like a brutal aftermath, though. Kind of that decorating aspect of Myers that you see a lot more expanded in Kills. So then Jimmy, no joke, realizes that he's in blood, and then he slips on it, and then bumps his head. Like, this guy's a fucking klutz, bro. This guy's a fucking klutz. Ah, Jesus. So the nurse then tries to leave, okay? They remember the nurse that Jimmy said, go ahead and leave? She tries to leave, and then she realized that all her tires are popped. Her tires are popped. And then she looks around, she sees that every car in the parking lot's tires are popped. Okay, that's a cool idea. I like how Myers popped all the tires of their car. That's something I don't think you ever see in any of the other movies. So I think it's cool that he popped the tires there. My question is, excuse me, how the fuck did this guy not get caught popping all their tires? And what did he use to pop the tires? A knife? Because he kind of just seemed to lose the knife. Even though he picked it up, he kind of lost it. He doesn't, like, how did he pop their tires? But whatever. I guess he used a knife. So then she runs back into the hospital after she does that. I just don't understand how Myers didn't get caught doing any of this. So Lori's just hiding, and then she fucking gets up and starts walking again, and then she leaves her hiding spot, and then the nurse calls her, okay? The nurse says, Lori. So then I guess Myers fucking got a loud noise notification, and then he stabs the nurse with the scalpel and then lifts her up. But a lot of people like this kill, myself included. This is the second best kill of the movie. He stabs her with the scalpel and then lifts her with one hand off the ground. Very good. Demonstrating his, like, inhuman strength. Really nice. That's a really nice kill. So then Lori runs off, okay, and Myers basically follows, and then she uses a bed kind of like a God pallet, and she shoves it in a way that's, like, he has to, like, do something about it. She then runs down the stairs. Myers follows her again. He's chasing her, like, slow, okay? He's, like, again, he's using that brisk robotic movement, and I don't get it. I don't get why he's moving like that. It's just in this setting, and like in when he was chasing her in the Haddonfield, and she was banging on the door, it kind of made sense for him. Well, it's not that it made sense. It's like the fact that he was taking his time was just him being weird and creepy. It's like, okay, if she gets in the house, where's she going? Myers knows that he already cut the phone lines and stuff to the house. So like, if she fucking gets in the house, where's she going, bro? That's why he didn't feel like he had to fucking bust his ass and get over there to kill her, right? Even though, like, he kind of moves with some urgency in the prior scene. Like, just like he was like, oh my God, I missed her. And then he realizes he missed her, and then he kind of walks with some urgency to get down the stairs, right? And then he takes his time getting across the street because he knows he kind of has her cornered. Nobody's helping her, right? So it's like, if she's going in there, there's no threat in there. I can just fucking take my time here, right? In this movie, okay, he loses line of sight of her when she leaves the fucking stairs. I don't know, like, you're just banking on being able to find her again, because, like, there's fucking 8 million fucking ways she could fucking turn left or turn right, turn straight, turn left there, maybe go into this room, which all the doors were just conveniently locked, I guess, to make it a little easier for Myers to fucking find her. But you know what I mean? Again, not buying the hospital as a setting you could actually do this. And again, she should be screaming her fucking ass off. But again, they, like, kind of made Lori a mute in this movie. Something that they would similarly do to ruin Jamie in Halloween 5. Following 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. Oh, God. Bro. But it's like, they kind of made Lori a mute. So she doesn't, like, scream when she can. Again, I don't know. I guess there's 10 people that work in this hospital. But whatever. Again, I'd say I don't buy the setting. But it's like, it just feels like he's, in this setting, well, I guess the main argument there is, in this setting, it feels like he really needs to fucking get his ass moving if he wants to fucking kill her. Lori passes like a fence, again, which, by the way, Rob Zombie's dream sequence in Halloween 2 does an excellent job at recreating some of the details of this chase scene and some of the set pieces that were used here. Excellent job by Zombie. Excellent job by Zombie. Even though it's a dream sequence, still, you can tell Zombie watched the scene a lot to recreate some of those details. And again, the details still work in their original form. This is like the environments that the Myers chases Lori through, and the actual, like, again, I disagree with the setting choice, but the actual set pieces that they use actually aren't bad. Lori presses, like, the button on an elevator, and I guess this is their first attempt at recreating the scene with when she's banging on the door. They recreate it twice, but it's like, so she's just sitting there waiting for the elevator to fucking go down, and Myers, again, it feels like he should be moving a little bit faster than he fucking is if he wants to actually kill her. Because, like, if she gets in that elevator, you're never going to be able to find her again, Myers. Like, that's why he should be moving his ass a little bit more. So like, just, the fact that she's, like, a mute and not screaming... She's not screaming, and you can only convey so much fear with your face. You can only convey so much fear with your face, okay? And the fact that, like, there's no screaming, and, like, again, you only convey so much fear, it doesn't land. The scare, I don't think, lands. Maybe it does for some other people, but again, especially when you've seen 500 of these, it's just, I don't think that particular scare lands. So then, Lori then gets out and hides in a car, okay? We cut back to Loomis and Marion, who are still in the car, And then Loomis says, don't feel sorry for me, feel sorry for that little town back there. You know, he talks about Samhain out his ass until Marion finally shuts him up. And then she's like, okay, there's this unsealed file on Michael Myers that was secret from everyone. It was only authorized to be opened after he broke out tonight, which again, that doesn't make fucking any sense at all. That doesn't make any sense at all. But he had to shoehorn the fact that their brother and sister in here somehow. But, so then you get it. So you get the revelation that Laurie and Myers are siblings, okay? And again, you never see original Jamie Lee Laurie react to the fact that she's Michael Myers' sister. I've said this in the Halloween 2 Rob Zombie version. You never see that. You never see the original Jamie Lee react. And that's a problem. Another reason this feels very tacked on is you don't get to see this character's reaction to it. And that's a problem. That's another serious problem I have with this movie, that she doesn't get to see that. You don't even get to see it in H2O. Like, you don't get any flashback sequence of her realizing she's Myers' sister or anything. She doesn't tell you anything about how she found out. Like, you never get to see that, as far as I remember. Very sad that you don't get that. But the biggest issue here is that the fact that Myers is after Laurie now gives him a motive that goes beyond Dr. Loomis's pure evil speech. He's committing familicide, essentially. He's trying to butcher his whole family. Okay? But my question is, like, how much of an issue is this really? Because again, we've talked about this before, even without the familicide angle, they just did an entire trilogy where they retconned the familicide angle. And guess what it was still about? It was still about Michael Myers versus Laurie Strode. That's what it was still about. The fact that the familicide was there or not there doesn't seem to impact the way that the story goes when it's not there, is it? Like, I'm not going to sit here and stick up for the twist. I don't exactly care. I don't care one way or the other. I don't. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but it's not my least favorite thing in the world either. In fact, you could argue that the familicide angle gave you better movies than the other ones. Because it's like the fucking other slashers like Jason and Freddy just going after anybody, yeah, ooh, yalla, holla, holla. It gave you dumb storylines where it's like the killer didn't seem to have motives. They just showed up and they killed whoever. Right? They just kill whoever's there. I think Freddy has a little bit more nuance to him, but especially Jason, where Jason just killed everybody that showed up at Camp Crystal Lake without any... it's like, bring in the group of bitches in a van. Jason gets rid of them. Bring in the next group of bitches in the van. Jason gets rid of them. You could argue that this familicide structure that this movie provided, this is where we're talking about the movie's legacy. You could argue that the familicide structure that this movie created gave you the increased sense of class that this movie has, that this franchise has. The fact that the fact that Myers is chasing a little girl in Halloween 4 is a direct result of this familicide angle. That is the reason he's going after her. It gives her motives to chase unique victims. Whereas Jamie Lloyd is very good. Is very, very good. And if you don't have the familicide angle, how do you get Jamie Lloyd in the trilogy, in the movies? How do you get Michael pursuing a child like Jamie Lloyd without the familicide angle, is my question. How do you do it? Myers doesn't kill kids unless they get in his way. It's like the Halloween 4, a fan favorite installment in the franchise, is a direct result, I would argue, of this familicide angle. And again, the embodiment of evil chasing the personification of innocence, a child, specifically a female child, like Michael and Jamie. This is for Halloween 4, but Michael and Jamie are the complete antithesis of one another. Where it's like Laurie's innocent too, but Jamie's a child. She's the complete and total opposite of him in every single way, in terms of personality as well as physical presence. You don't have that dynamic. There is no way to shoehorn the personification of evil going after a little girl, unless he just kills everybody. But it's like the familicide angle gave you a complete way to organically write that conflict into existence. It's just, again, it's just like they gave you better stories. It gave you that good story, which again 5 and 6 would go on to ruin it. So like I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's like my question to you, everybody my question to people that actually vehemently hate this twist is Michael Myers actually franchisable without it? That's my question. And again, it's like, okay, they just did the trilogy. Yes, but they just did that trilogy, but they did not fucking break away from the heart of the franchise, which was Michael versus Laurie. Or like you know what I mean? They were not confident enough to move away from the Laurie Strode character. Halloween is forever being linked to these certain characters, right? Is that just because Jamie Lee's a big star? Is that she would bring box office dollars that wouldn't be there otherwise? Is that why they didn't want to move away from her? Like, you know what I mean? Even when they dropped the Familicide angle, its prints were still all over that 2018 trilogy. We're still all over it. The idea of Michael and Laurie being because the Familicide angle was gone and Myers had no organic reason to go after her, they had to make her the one that wanting to go after him, right? Because they wanted to organically keep the characters intact and keep that conflict there, right? They were not what is better? In terms of franchising the character, what is better? You will always have the OG movie, and yes, the OG movie, he is the personification of evil that is going after a random-ass girl that fucking just dropped off a key at his old house. And he's like, I'm just gonna follow you and figure out your whole day, because that's what I'm just gonna fucking do. You will always have that movie. In terms of franchising the character, what is better? Do you just want him to be like Jason? And just fucking walk around and pick a new victim every fucking time and do the same thing over and over again? Like, what is better? What is better? And again, I'm not saying, I must repeat, I don't love it. I'm not married to it. I'm asking a legitimate question. What is better than what they gave you in terms of franchising the killer? The Halloween franchise's killer, Michael Myers, going to commit familicide through his original interpretations, gave you a much more unique franchise than the other slashers. It could be debated that decision is why he's still relevant. It could be debated that. Because that gave you an increased reason to bring Jamie Lee's Laurie Strode back in the first place, because the characters were brother and sister. If the characters were not brother and sister, why bother bringing Jamie Lee back in the first place? I don't know. These questions may not have answers. And again, there's obviously ways to shoehorn a Jamie Lee reintroduction into the franchise, even without her being related to Michael Myers. It was just much simpler and much more organic, right? And again, I guess a lot of these questions I'm posing are rhetorical. They don't need answers and they don't deserve answers. But like the legacy and importance of the twist that they dump on you in this, I don't think is to be taken lightly. John Carpenter may hate the twist. He may hate it to this day. But I don't necessarily think it was the total incorrect narrative choice. I don't think it was handled well. That doesn't mean I'm going to sit here and lick its ass either. It wasn't handled well. Jamie Lee's Laurie didn't react to it at all. That wasn't handled well. It wasn't expanded upon in the other movies. Where it's like, okay, Halloween 6, he's got to off his bloodline for a cult. That's fucking stupid. That's fucking trash. He's under the influence of a cult he's got to kill his... Like, that's terrible. That's terrible. So it really wasn't properly expanded. You know what I mean? I don't fucking know. But the legacy of this twist, it's a complicated legacy. No matter where you fall in the fence of it, it's just... again, there are certain sides... Because, again, it does take away from Myers' mystique in the way that he's a bit more grounded in terms of what he's doing. You know, he has specific people he's going after. But again, it's like I could still, like, even especially when I was a kid, I could certainly buy, like, and that never took away from Myers' presence as the personification of evil to me. To me, it made sense that the personification of evil would want to kill their family. And they have a fixation at killing their family. If he's evil incarnate, killing your family is something that I could see somebody that's actually evil being fixated on, because families are supposed to be everything good about the world, right? So it kind of makes sense that the personification of evil has a fixation on killing his family. I like, you know what I mean? I don't fucking know. Rhetorical fucking question. So, I mean, that's all I think I'm going to say on it. And again, I really like the Rob Zombie versions, which lean into the brother-sister aspect of Michael and Laurie in a much different way, where it's like, is it nature or nurture? And you get that fucking clash, especially within the Laurie Strode character in number 2. I just think there are a lot of things you can do with that family dynamic between the two of them. It's like, and you know what? Because the opinions are so varied on it, I think what's cool about it is you can take Myers in any direction you need him in future installments. Where it's like, if you want to bring the character Jamie back, you could make a movie that ignores fucking 5 and 6, right? You can leave that cliffhanger in 4, where it's like Jamie, like you can even bring, again, I've said this before on stream, you can bring James G. Courtney back as fucking Michael Myers and have a movie where it's like, maybe Jamie's going after him or some shit. Like, you know what I mean? There's a lot of things you could do with the character in terms of, or you can just make another reboot. The character now has options in terms of what you want to do. I think the fact that it's there is better than it's not, than it not being there. That's just me, though. That's the last thing I'm going to say about it. I want to get this fucking shit done. Okay? So, there you go on that. So, basically, upon Loomis hearing the fact that Laurie's Myers' sister, he knows that Michael's going after her. So as he hijacks the car, what is it you usually do? Fire a warning shot, and then he shoots it, right? Hijacks the car, and then he starts going back to the hospital. Jesus. Talking for a long time. Then he starts going back to the hospital. Okay? So they get there. Loomis and crew basically, okay, I forgot this part. I forgot a scene. Laurie's in the car, and then Jimmy walks into the car. I don't know how he figured out where she was. Jimmy walks into the car, and I thought all the tires were flat on all the cars, but whatever. Jimmy just comes in, he's like, we will get out. And then he, like, passes out, and his face smacks the horn, and then the horn starts going off. So Myers at that point gets, like, again, 15,000 fucking loud noise notifications, and now knows where you are. Jimmy's fucking pathetic, man. He slips on the blood and then fucking passes out, and then he's gone from the movie. That's actually how he's written out, no joke. He doesn't get a killed scene or anything. I think that in the TV version, it's revealed he survives, but I'm not watching the TV version, so I don't care. Loomis and crew enter the house, and Laurie can't scream until they're already inside. Laurie gets her voice back the second they close the door. It's fucking hysterical. But basically, they're already inside. Loomis is like, you over here, your ass stays with me. Like, he's being a total pimp thug as they walk through the hospital yelling at everybody and ordering everybody what to do. Myers, of course, finds Laurie, who bangs on the glass, and yet this is the real recreation of the Tommy door banging scene. It's not as drawn out, and like they don't get left there as long. It's not as suspenseful. Again, jack of all trades, master of none. Myers just fucking, like, the door's there. Myers just fucking walks through it at a brisk pace, and it just completely shatters when he fucking touches it. That's fucking weird. And basically, Loomis shoots him, and he falls over, and the dumbass cop goes over to him and is like, he's totally dead. And Loomis is like, no, he's still breathing. And then he tells Marion to get her ass outside and use the radio to call the police. Okay? Cop starts bitching because he's the only one authorized to use the radio, and then he kneels down in front of Myers like a complete fucking retard, he's then promptly killed when Myers slits his throat with a scalpel. Okay? So then Loomis and Laurie run through the hospital. Marion's calling the cops, telling them to get their asses over here. Loomis gives Laurie a gun as Myers starts banging on the door that they put themselves in, and he breaks it down. Okay? Loomis shoots at Myers when he walks through the door, but he's out of bullets, and Loomis is then promptly stabbed with a scalpel and pushed over to the floor. Okay? Myers walks towards Laurie. Laurie grabs the gun that Loomis puts by her foot, and Laurie calls him Michael, which basically makes him stop in his tracks because he's like, oh shit, the bitch knows my name. How does she know my name? So he, like, thinks, it's like, he's seemingly thinking about that fact for a second before he decides he doesn't care, and then is about to kill her. And then Laurie fucking blasts him in the face and shoots his eyes out at point-blank range. Don't know how this teen arrow changer that's never shot a gun before somehow fucking hit him point-blank in both of his eyes in 2 shots. But, sure. So Myers gets, so Myers, both of his eyes are hit, and that's where you see the image with the blood falling down his face. I don't know if his eyes were supposed to be shot out or just heavily fucking damaged, but Myers is blind now. And this is the only laughingly bad part of this movie. Where it's like, there's some other flaws and stuff where it's like, I don't agree with this choice, I don't agree with that choice. But the only part that is laugh out loud bad and shit is when Myers' eyes are shot out and he fucking just starts swinging at the room. Fucking just like, where are you, Laurie? Like, there's a fucking bee fucking in his ear. He's just fucking swinging at the air. This is laughingly horrible. This is laughingly fucking trash. Okay? It's very comical every time he swings the scalpel. Laurie's sitting there going, like, she screams every time he fucking swings the scalpel. Right? And Myers, who is not a genius, but he's also not stupid, he's in the middle. He's at average intelligence. Okay? Myers, he still has his fucking ears. He should be fucking trying to... He gets so close to Laurie, who's going, but he can't hit her. He's just swinging right in front of her, and Laurie's not even fucking trying to dodge him. She's just standing there screaming, and Myers just keeps swinging the scalpel. He keeps missing. It's fucking embarrassing. That is the only laughingly horrendous laugh out loud moment in this fucking movie. He still can't pinpoint her location. Like, what the fuck is he doing? Every time I see that, it's just really bad. Okay? Loomis then promptly comes over and turns on gas valves, okay? The gas valves then fill the air up with this noise. Now, if these gas valves were turned on much sooner, I feel like Loomis should have been trying to turn on the gas valves the second Myers was trying to come into the room. If the gas valves were turned on earlier, and then as soon as he lost his eyes, then his vision and hearing, like if they compromised his hearing first and then took care of the eyes, the swinging the scalpel around wouldn't be as horrendous. The issue with the swinging of the scalpel around, he's blind as fuck, is because he should still be able to use sound to at least semi-pinpoint Laurie's location. The fact he can't do that makes it laughingly fucking shit. Okay? But it's less shit when his hearing is just as compromised. Okay? When his hearing is just as compromised, then it's not as bad anymore. But, so they turn on the gas. Laurie turns on the gas. They release like this fucking shit ton of gases into the room. And then Laurie leaves. Loomis like, Michael, it's time. And then he turns on the fucking match, which blows up the entire room to fucking smithereens, killing himself and Myers in the process. Yes, they're dead. They were written to be dead here. I know they live in 4 and H2O, etc., etc. I know they live in the other continuities. But when this was penned, this was done with the intention of killing both characters. So Loomis sacrifices himself to kill Michael Myers. And he's actually dead. Like, Myers steps in and falls over and burns to a crisp and the movie's over. Giving you what is probably... some people think this is the best death of Michael Myers. I still like the head being yoinked off in H2O just a little bit better, because I think that's a little bit more definitive, because again, I know it's not, he survived, that wasn't him, or whatever the fuck they said in Resurrection, but he technically survives this too. But so it's like, yeah, the power of retroactive bullshit, the power of money brought them both back. The power of money can make you survive anything. But it's like, this is fucking one of the most dead that he's ever been. So, it was a very good kill. Very good Myers death here. Where Loomis they blow up together. It's really nice. Laurie's then transferred to another ambulance, and then the movie's over. That's the movie. That's Halloween 2/81. A movie with an identity crisis, but again, this is still a very above-average movie. It's very close to the 78 movie in terms of tone, looks, aesthetic, etc., etc. They up the violence and shit. It has a slight identity crisis, and it has a very complicated legacy amongst the fan base. But overall, all that stuff about it, especially its complicated legacy, just makes it more of a classic. It is a movie that, if it is important to horror history, I truly believe this is an important movie for horror history. Because it shaped one of the most iconic characters and defined his franchise. Way more so than the original. Though the original did not define the franchise, this one did. And if you're paying attention to the franchise, you know that. And because it took such a daring twist, it took such a daring twist, and that fucking, again, it wasn't a twist that even its creator even likes anymore. But like, you could still argue that twist gave it a certain amount of longevity that propelled the series to icon status. Like, it's really quite incredible. So I think that's all I gotta say, lads. This is, I said earlier, this is a mid movie. I'm not gonna lie, it's above average. I also can't lie to you and tell you it's my favorite. Like, when I rank this on the tier list, it's probably gonna be somewhere in the middle. I can't lie and say it's my favorite. I've seen others more. There's a lot more. Some of the movies in the franchise are a bit more fun, and there's some less. There's the Loomis stuff when he's not with Myers and he's on a side quest. That's kind of stupid. There's some stuff in this movie that's kind of dumb, and of course, Jimmy's a fucking train wreck. There's some stuff in this movie that doesn't work, but and then again, the issues with the setting, and then the setting, and the fact that Laurie doesn't have any reaction to her being Michael's sister, like all that stuff, like those are like the major blemishes on the radar. But again, far from the worst in this franchise. The shit in this franchise that is bad is horrendous. This is not a horrendous movie. This is an above average sequel. Not as good as some of the fan favorites, I would argue, and not as good as, again, some of the other underlooked entries in the franchise, like zombie movies. I don't think this is better than either Rob Zombie movie. I don't. But that might be down to preference. Like, if you like this better than the Rob Zombies, I don't blame you. I'm a very odd person when it comes to those two movies. But there you go. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Very good. Not Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. The original Halloween 2, 1981. Very good movie. Very good sequel. One of the better slashers that has ever been made. All right. I'm getting the hell out of here, lads. GG's.